Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another awesome session of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. My name is Geographic, and what we're all about here is connecting classrooms to science, adventure, and conservation from all over the world. And I'm going to introduce our guest very shortly, but I want to say a quick shout out to our classrooms joining us live today from all over North America. So the first classroom I have, I'm going to turn on your mic. We have Mrs. Carlson's second graders from Virginia in the U.S. Can you guys say good morning?
Morning!
All right, excited group to join us there. We have Mrs. Ganato's grade 6s from Mount Prospect, Illinois. So I'm not sure if they're in the room yet, but they might be just transitioning. Good morning. They made it. All right. Mrs. Cerrone's class from grade 4 is joining us from Florida. Let me turn your microphone on.
Okay. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, grade 4. All right. And last but not least, we have Mr. Cameron joining us. His class is from Thunder Bay in Ontario, Canada. Morning, guys.
Good morning.
All right, and they're a grade 5-6 class. So without any further ado, let me introduce George Kourounis. He's our guest for today. He's a global adventurer and the host of Angry Planet. At any given time, you might find him chasing a storm or taking a selfie inside a volcano. And he does this because he wants to share those adventures with people all over the world. He wants to break people's routines and just bring a little adventure into people's lives and show them the awesome side of the power of our planet. So, George, I'm going to let you take over from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's so much fun to be here. I've never done one of these kind of things before, and this is just a great venue, and I want to say thank you guys for allowing me to be on here and to share at least a little bit of what I do and some of the reasoning behind it. And I'm going to show you guys some crazy pictures, some crazy video about some of my global adventures. And that's basically what I do for a living. My job is a professional adventurer, explorer, and storm chaser. And it's kind of the type of job description that you think of when you're someone your age, but we sort of tend to grow out of those kind of things, and I just never grew up. So I guess growing older is mandatory, but growing up is optional, and I just never grew up. And it served me quite well. As an explorer, there's not too many places left to explore. We've been to the moon. We've discovered all of the continents. There's no new land masses to discover. So exploration these days in the 21st century has to be new and innovative, just like everything else in the 21st century. So my specialty is going out and exploring parts of the world that are undergoing incredible change. Places where a tornado is touching down, or places where a hurricane, like Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Sandy, is making landfall, or where a volcano is erupting, creating the newest land on Earth. Those places are changing at that given point in time, and that point in time will never come again. So I go there and I document this, and I film, and I take photos, and I do all of this so I can share with the world these amazing places that most people will never get the opportunity to see with their own eyes, because it's either too dangerous or too difficult to get to these places. So I do it so you don't have to a certain degree. And when I was growing up, my heroes were guys like ocean explorer Jacques Cousteau and Indiana Jones. Sort of combine all that love of science, the love of nature, with that spirit of adventure and exploration. And that's how I sort of got into doing this. I started chasing storms, like you've seen in the movies, in Twister or Into the Storm or Storm Chasers on Discovery Channel. And I started doing that about 18 years ago, like literally just driving across Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, places like this, trying to find the craziest weather on Earth. I'm going to do a screen share here. Let me see if I can get this to work. There we go. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, looks good. Just
cool.
Yep.
So you got some video or some tornado images up here.
Yep.
So the central part of the United States gets more tornadoes than anywhere else in the world. They can get between 800 to 1,200 per year, usually in places like northern Texas and Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, the central plains part of the United States. Here in Canada, where I live, we get tornadoes as well, but only a fraction of what we get in the United States. And some of them can be absolutely massive. The largest tornado that I've ever encountered was 2.6 miles wide, and it was the world record largest tornado ever documented. And these things are amazing. The storms that produce tornadoes can be up to twice the height of Mount Everest. Think about that. That's twice the height of the cruising altitude of a passenger jet flying from New York to Los Angeles. So huge, huge storms that have this rotation in them. And that rotation makes its way to the ground, and a tornado can sometimes be formed. Finding these things is extremely difficult. Imagine trying to find a needle in a haystack while that haystack is moving at 60 miles an hour and not paying attention to any of the traffic laws. So it can be really difficult to find these things, forecast them. I've had to learn how to do all my own weather forecasting. But seeing all that energy concentrated in one spot is really something to behold. And I got a little video here. And this particular video was from South Dakota. And I was guiding a tornado chasing tour group at the time, which is something I do. So if you're interested in coming tornado chasing, that is a possibility. So this tornado is on the ground. I'm driving towards it right now. I want to go to the spot where that tornado is going to cross the highway. Not on top of me, hopefully. That's sort of that's the idea. So we finally get to this point where there's this farmhouse, and you can really see this tornado spinning. It's moving from left to right. We know it's going to cross the highway directly in front of us. The safest place, if there's a tornado coming, is in your basement, right? That's the safest place to be. The least safe place is actually in a car, because a tornado will take that car, crunch it like a Coke can, and throw it into a field. Now take a look at the oncoming headlights of this car. I don't know what this driver was thinking, but he almost drives right into this tornado. Either he didn't see it at all, or he needs to change his underwear at this point, because that was such a close call. Unbelievable. How do I get out of this now? Oh, I see what I need to do. There we go. And I should be able to switch that off, and now I'm back. There we are. Cool. Awesome. But along with tornadoes, the storms that produce these tornadoes, these supercell thunderstorms is what we call them. They're these storms that have rotation in them. So the whole storm is rotating. We call it a supercell. And it is also responsible for producing tremendous winds, flooding, and some gigantic hail, sometimes the size of your fist or even bigger. And let me tell you, when that stuff is coming for you, it will smash your windshield, it will pulverize your car, and you do not want to be outside in that. You will get tenderized, to say the very least. But it's not just tornadoes that I pursue. I also go and intercept other types of storms. The biggest storms on Earth, hurricanes, are... It takes a second to respond here. There we go. Are just massive. Here's an image of Hurricane Katrina just before it made landfall in Mississippi and Louisiana. This was the night before. And during the storm, the entire city of Gulfport, Mississippi, which is where I was basically abandoned. There was no one there other than me and my team, some soldiers, almost completely evacuated. And the thing with a hurricane is that it slowly increases. The wind slowly increases over a period of hours and hours as that storm moves on shore. And then you get to what's called the eye wall. It's that area around the calm eye. I'm sure you've heard the term the calm eye of the storm. And hurricanes do absolutely have that. And it's very eerie to be in that calm eye. But around that calm eye, you get the most ferocious winds of the hurricane. And here during Hurricane Katrina, it was shredding buildings, it was flipping cars. We had pieces of metal flying around like the blades of a helicopter. Just really incredible stuff. And we just had to hold on for dear life, basically. We had winds gusting close to 180 miles an hour. Every little raindrop feels like you're being hit with a needle. every little piece of gravel or glass feels like you're just getting hit with a bullet almost. And the winds were just so strong and the flooding so intense that everything from the coastline of the Gulf of Mexico, about a half a mile inland, was just completely destroyed. The building that I'm shooting this video from was a steel reinforced concrete parking garage. And it was one of the only buildings that I thought was going to survive. Luckily, it did, but you can see how ferocious the winds are. Hurricanes are just a large area of low pressure in the atmosphere. You've got areas of high pressure and low pressure, and it's basically just the atmosphere trying to balance itself out. And unfortunately, sometimes it does it in a very violent way. The winds were so strong that just all across the ground, because if I had stood up, I just would have been lifted and carried away. Powerful, just a force that you cannot imagine. As our climate gets warmer, we're expecting hurricanes to change. Not necessarily getting more hurricanes, but with warmer ocean water, we are expecting these hurricanes that do form to become stronger hurricanes, these Category 4 and 5 storms, these really damaging hurricanes. They get their energy from that warm ocean water. That's the fuel for hurricanes. And as that ocean water warms up, it provides a supercharging power to any of these storms that happen to form out in the Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, or even in the Pacific. We have an El Nino happening right now, so there's very warm water in the Pacific Ocean. And we just recently had Hurricane Patricia hit Mexico, the strongest hurricane ever to hit that part of the world. And it was because of this warming ocean. That was caused by El Nino, but as we introduce more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, it's warming up the oceans more. They have a very dark surface, so they absorb a lot of sunlight. That sunlight warms the surface of the ocean. That ocean surface then provides more fuel for these very powerful storms. So I suspect that I'm probably going to be pretty busy over the next 10 years or so. I've got a bit of job security, so to speak, unfortunately. But it's not just storms that I go after. I'm sure many of you, just before going live here, I heard that many of you had seen some of the volcano viral videos that I've been involved with. I love every force of nature, from diving with sharks to swimming with piranhas to climbing inside active volcanoes to chasing tornadoes. And one of the craziest encounters I've ever had with Mother Nature was going to a place called Maroom Volcano. And this is what it looked like in Maroom. It's just this amazing lake of lava. It looks like a waterfall.
George, can you just try that share again? Oh, here it goes. Never mind.
Yeah. Oh, here's it going. Okay. Yeah, it just takes a few seconds for it to click over, I guess. And yes, that is me down at the bottom. I'm wearing a special heat protective suit. It's the type of suit that you would wear if you were working in a steel mill, anywhere around really hot liquids, things like that. And it helps to protect me from the heat of that lava. It's incredible how hot this actually is. Imagine how hot you'd have to heat up a rock in order to melt it. And now imagine a lake of that liquid rock that is maybe 100 yards or 100 meters wide, just boiling away 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's only about 5 places in the world that have these active lakes of lava, and I've been to 4 of those 5 now, so I'm slowly chipping away at the list of these particular places. And that suit, without that suit, I couldn't stand at that point for more than 10 seconds. With the suit, I could do it for a couple of minutes, and that would be pretty much the end of it. Just switching this back here. There we go. Now we're back. And volcanoes are really amazing. What we're seeing is basically a window into what's going on inside the Earth's crust. A lot of volcanoes happen in these areas that we call subduction zones. And that's where you have one tectonic plate that's being pushed down underneath another one. And as that plate plunges deeper into the Earth, it gets heated up by all that hot rock that's already down there, and it melts, and that the gases that are inside that rock want to rise, just like shaking a Coke can and then opening it up and spraying it at your sister. Same kind of effect, but imagine that with liquid rock. And that's exactly what's going on in that video. It's imagine being tiny, standing at the edge of a Coke can while someone shakes it up and opens it, but the Coke is heated to 12 or 1200 or up to 2000 degrees. So it's this really extreme window into the center of the Earth. And that's how new rock is formed. In Hawaii, the Kilauea volcano has been spewing lava since the 1980s, and it flows down into the ocean. And the big island of Hawaii is actually getting larger every single day. The lava just pours into the ocean a little bit more and a little bit more, and the island is getting a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. What's happening there is the tectonic plate that Hawaii is positioned on is moving very, very slowly above a hot spot underneath in the Earth, in the mantle of the Earth. And that hot spot is melting a hole in the crust of the Earth, and it's causing these volcanoes to form. So as you go further west in the Hawaiian Islands, they're the older islands. The ones in the east, like the Big Island that is still erupting today, are the newest islands. And as a matter of fact, there's another island that hasn't even formed yet. It's below the water's surface. It's called Loihi. And in a few thousand years, it will eventually come to the surface and create even the newest Hawaiian island. They've already given it a name, and it's not even an island yet, because we know in a few thousand years it will eventually become an island as the Hawaiian Islands drift over that hot spot. So I guess I'm wrong. There are still some new islands that are being formed. When I was saying earlier about there's no new places to explore, in a few thousand years we will have a new island that we can stick a flag on and call it, claim it for the United States in terms of being one of the new Hawaiian islands. So that's really interesting. I want to show you guys one more thing before we start taking some questions. I love doing extreme exploration to places where no human has ever been before. And I was very fortunate to be able to do a project with National Geographic. And this project involved going to this place here in Darvaza, Turkmenistan. The locals call it the doorway to hell because it sort of looks like something you expect some type of demon or something to come leaping out of the ground, and it looks like a volcano, but it's not. It's a crater in the desert in Central Asia, just north of the border with Iran, in the country of Turkmenistan, where very few people have ever been. They were drilling for natural gas about 45 years ago. The drilling rig collapsed into this sinkhole that's about 100 feet deep and 230 feet across, and it was leaking natural gas. They lit it on fire thinking that it would burn off in a couple of days, and that was almost 45 years ago, and it's been burning like this ever since. So my job with National Geographic was to go here and take samples of the soil inside the crater to see if there's any type of bacteria living in there. The environment inside the crater is rich with methane gas. It's an organic compound. So if we could find any type of life living in this hot, methane-rich crater, it could give us clues to life on other planets that also have hot, methane-rich environments. So it was kind of like searching for alien life, but right here on Earth. The tricky part, of course, is gathering the samples. So I had to go and do something that no one has ever done before. We strung ropes all the way across, these special fire-resistant ropes, across the entire span of the crater. And then I was able to go out to the middle in my special heat-proof suit, oxygen tank on my back, and then rappel down, set foot at the bottom, and then grab the samples. 12 people have been on the surface of the moon. Only one person has been at the bottom of this crater. Now you need to look really, really closely. You've got that large flame in the center. If you look just to the right, you'll be able to see me. Let me zoom in here so you can see a little bit better. There we go. Thousands of little flames at the bottom. Just unbelievably hot, incredible view, being at the bottom just looking around. I was able to spend about 17 minutes at the bottom gathering samples, taking some gas measurements and temperature readings, things like that. And then we brought the soil samples back to a lab in Chicago, and they were able to analyze them and, whoops, and they were able to discover that there were bacteria living at the bottom of this crater. So we were successful. Our expedition was successful in finding this alien-type life right here on Earth inside this flaming crater. And none of the bacteria that were discovered were found in the surrounding soil. It's a unique ecosystem inside a burning pit. Really, really amazing. So, I mean, that's just a small sample of a lot of the adventures that I've been on all around the world, from almost 60 different countries, all 7 continents, from Antarctica to India, Indonesia, and caves all over the world and things like that. So I wanted the opportunity to share with you guys some of the most extreme, some of the craziest ones, a broad spectrum of storms and volcanoes and flaming gas craters, and just to show you what's out there. And I'm sure there's a handful of questions at least that you guys would love to throw my way, and I'd be more than happy to answer anything that you've got about any subject.
All right. Well, I have a feeling that you are absolutely right. I think there's going to be lots of questions.
Let them rip. Bring them on.
Yeah, good. Thanks for that. That was awesome, giving us a little peek into some of your adventures and some of the most amazing, powerful places on Earth you've ever been. So thanks for sharing that. And let's jump to our grade 2 class. Let's talk to our grade 2s in Virginia, see if they have 2 questions to start off.
All right, come on up.
Hey, guys in Virginia.
Say hi.
Hi. My name is Aaron. I have a question for you.
Go ahead, Aaron.
What kind of weather do you discover and search and that kind of stuff? Like, what other kind of weather types do you discover?
Sure. All kinds of weather, as a matter of fact, but I specifically love the extreme weather. So it could be flooding. I was just in South Carolina a few weeks ago when they had their big floods down there. I'm sure you guys in South Carolina that are on there certainly know all about that. But I also document the hottest places in the world, the coldest, blizzards, hailstorms, lightning, dust storms, sandstorms in the desert. So anything that's extreme. For me, it's a beautiful, nice, sunny day here in Toronto. I find that quite boring. So anything that's extreme, the more extreme, the better.
Thank you.
All right, awesome question. Let's steal another one.
One more. Say your name.
Hi, I'm Marcelo.
Hi, Marcelo.
My question is, what happens if a tornado gets struck by lightning?
If a tornado gets struck by lightning, well, that's a good question. Lightning is an electrical discharge that happens when you get a lot of particles like ice crystals and raindrops rubbing up against each other inside the thunderstorm. Have you ever rubbed your feet across the carpet and then zapped somebody? It's the exact same thing. And we have noticed that when a storm is strengthening and maybe about to produce a tornado, we see a lot more lightning. So it's very common to see tornadoes and lightning at the same time, but the actual lightning bolt hitting a tornado won't affect it at all. It'll have 0 effect. They're immune. But if you get struck by lightning, that would be very bad. The electricity in your wall is about 110 volts. The electricity from a bolt of lightning is about 100 million volts and burns 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
No, that'll ruin your day.
Yeah, definitely. So, great questions. Maybe we'll have time to swing back for a final question from the classes, but let's grab Mrs. Kourounis' class in Florida, the grade 4s. You have a couple questions for George.
Go ahead, Lily.
What did you do before you started exploring?
What did I do before I started exploring? Great question. My education and study background is in engineering. So I worked for many years as an engineer working in the sound and audio field. So I was building recording studios for a living. So it was very technical, and I loved it very much. But at the same time, while I was doing that job, working in recording studios, I would take my vacation time and go and chase tornadoes. And then I would sort of adjust my schedule so that I had more time off and more time off and more time off. And then eventually I was doing more of the exploring and storm chasing and less of the actual engineering work. And it was a really great day when I had to quit a job that I loved to go and do what I was extremely passionate about. And that was really great. And that all came about because of the Angry Planet TV series. You may have seen it. Check it out online. Go onto YouTube and just look up Angry Planet, and you'll see some clips from the show if you haven't seen it already. And that was what allowed me to switch careers.
What inspired you to explore?
What inspired me to explore? Well, we're all born as explorers, right? When we're toddlers, we're always discovering and learning about our surroundings. So we have it inside of us, all of us. We sort of grow out of it as we get older and as we learn more and we get caught up in the daily grind of going to work, going to school and that. And I was just inspired by nature itself. I love being outdoors. I love seeing these extreme parts of the world. And it's my passion for doing that and sharing these places that really inspired me to go out and work really hard to make a career out of it so that I could continue doing it and still be able to, you know, pay the bills and still be able to show people what's going on out there and showcase places that, again, where very few people will get the opportunity to see. So it's Mother Nature herself. It's nature that really inspires me for everything.
All right, great questions, grade 4s. Hopefully we can swing back. Mr. Cameron in Thunder Bay, I bet you guys have a couple questions for us.
Hey, Joe.
Go Thunder Bay!
First of all, by the way, we're going to have one question first by a student, and then the second question will be a student's question or a parent's question via the student. Make sense?
Perfectly clear.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Tori. What is the most dangerous situation you have been in?
Ooh, the most dangerous situation. That's a good question. There's been many. I've had lightning strike so close to me that I've felt the heat on my face. I've been inside a tornado with debris flying around. It was like driving through a swarm of bees. The scariest thing that I've encountered was I was inside a volcano. Well, there's a few. Let me think here. I was inside a volcano one time, and it was exploding and erupting, and I actually had to stop and look at the lava flying through the air and sort of adjust my position as the pieces of lava were flying overhead and landing behind me. So I had to watch the angle of the pieces of lava flying through the air. So that was pretty dangerous.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question for you, George.
Go ahead.
How many storms do you chase in a year?
How many storms do I chase in a year? What's your name?
Mason.
Mason, nice to meet you. I usually spend, well, this past year, I've spent over 200 nights a year away from home. And that's chasing storms, that's going to volcanoes, that's filming the TV program. It's not just storms. Usually when I'm chasing tornadoes, it's about 4 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks, usually in the springtime. May and the first part of June. That's the peak of tornado season. When it comes to hurricanes, it really depends on how the season is. This year, we haven't really had any hurricanes in the Atlantic that have been that I've been able to chase. So it really does depend from year to year, but it's not uncommon for me to be away 150 to over 200 nights per year. A lot of travel.
Thank you.
And Mason, was that your mom's question?
That was my dad's question.
Okay, thank you, Mason.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. So we're going to visit one more class, and then I'm pretty sure we'll have time to swing back and grab another maybe final question from each class. So
Perfect.
Mr. Donato's grade 6s in Mount Prospect, Illinois. Let me just turn your mic on for you. There we go.
Thanks. Come on.
Hey, Illinois.
Hey, how's it going? Okay, go ahead, guys.
Okay, well, you go. Hi. Well, it's an honor to meet you. You're really cool, and
Thank you.
I'm really fascinated about what you do. So
Thank you.
I want to say thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Do you have a question?
Yes. What do you know? What kinds of elements actually make the suit, and how they withstand the actual
Sure. So my special heat suit. What's
Yeah.
it made of, and how does it work?
Yes.
It's made up of many different layers of material. Closest to my body is a thick layer of an insulating material, and then the outside is aluminum. And the aluminum reflects that infrared energy away, so the radiant heat. Like if you turn on the oven and then you open the door, you feel that radiant heat come out. And what the suit does is the aluminum reflects a lot of that away, and that's what helps to protect me. The problem is that you still get really hot inside. Imagine putting on a snowsuit in the middle of summer. You're still going to get hot. So it does protect you from getting third-degree burns, but it doesn't protect you so much from overheating, and that becomes a big problem, especially when you're in the middle, obviously, in a volcano, that kind of thing. So that's basically how it works. It's pretty simple. It's very low tech. So insulating on the inside and aluminum on the outside.
Cool. Say thanks. And I think we get one more.
Yeah.
So come on and do the next one.
And then the final
Hurry up. They're kind of trying to go quicker, okay?
Hello.
Hey.
Okay, question.
My name is Jaylene, and I'm Sarah. And we wanted to say that you're really cool, and thank you for coming to. And
Thank you, guys.
Okay, question, guys.
Okay. We want to ask, how do you transfer the samples of the thing that you explore across the country without it changing the way it looks or the state of matter?
The samples from the crater?
Yeah.
Great question. Really great question. So because we're looking for life, bacteria, that lives in a very hot environment, once you take it out of that environment, it's probably not going to survive. So I brought with me a biologist who specializes in this type of bacteria, and he had with him in our tent out in the middle of the desert this kit of equipment, and he was able to take the soil samples that I gave him, put it in a canister with these little tiny little glass beads, and then he had this special device that shook it up really fast, and those beads would crush the cells, and they would still be able to study what was left and get the DNA to do an analysis of it. But by going through this process, it allowed us to transport these samples at room temperature. So we didn't have to carry them in a little oven or anything like that. So we did basically, we can't bring the entire lab with us out to the crater, so we brought half the lab and then did the rest in Chicago. So we sort of had to compromise there, but that's a really great question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, that was a really cool question.
These guys are thinking.
So let's visit each class one more time for a wrap-up question, and then so let's grab our grade 2s. Let's go right back to the beginning. Jump back.
I'm Stella.
Hey, Stella.
How do tornadoes form?
How do tornadoes form? Okay. Let me try and squeeze this down into a digestible explanation. What happens is you've got winds at the surface of the Earth, and we can feel that wind blowing. But as you go higher up in the atmosphere, the winds change. Sometimes they get faster. Sometimes they change direction. And as you have winds changing with direction, as you get higher and higher up in the atmosphere, any air that wants to rise up through those winds is going to get pushed by those winds. And that's what can cause this rotation. And that's what causes these supercell storms. So we call it wind shear. That's one of the main ingredients. So you have this hot warm, moist, muggy, humid air at the surface where we are, it rises up, forms clouds, and those clouds end up getting spin because of this wind shear, this change of wind direction as you go higher, higher up towards space. And that causes the rotation in the storm. And that, in turn, if it's strong enough, especially at the lower levels, close down to where we live, if that is strong enough, then you can have a tornado that forms out of that. That rotation makes it all the way down to the ground. Pretty rare. Only about 10% of all rotating storms actually produce a tornado. They're quite rare.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, awesome question, Stella. Thank you. Grade 4s in Florida, Mrs. Kourounis' class. Do you have a final question for George?
Yes. My name is William. What is your next adventure planned and why?
What is my next adventure? Well, that volcano that I showed you the video of, I'm going back at the end of the month. There is a second lake of lava there, a different one that I have yet to visit. So I'm very excited about that. And then upcoming in the new year, I'm going to yet another volcano. This one is going to be in the Congo jungle in Central Africa. So over the next few months, I've got several big volcano expeditions that I'm working on right now. It's not really storm season now, so I can focus more on the volcanoes.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right. Amazing. We'll have to definitely connect with you in the new year and catch up on some of your newer adventures for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Cameron, Thunder Bay, I bet you've got another one.
Have lots of questions.
Let her rip.
All right, he's coming.
No worries.
Hello, my name is Charles, and my mom's question is, what do you feel is most dangerous, a tornado or a volcano?
Wow. Wow. What is more dangerous, a tornado or a volcano? That's a really difficult question because volcanoes are very broad. You could have a volcano that is just oozing lava, and you could walk right up to it and set your boots on fire, which I've done. But you could also have a big volcano eruption like Krakatoa or like Yellowstone, which could affect hundreds of thousands of people. But when you compare that to the most violent tornadoes, I'm going to have to say volcanoes are more dangerous. You could take the largest tornado that has ever been documented, and you look at how much damage and destruction that can cause, and you compare it to a moderate to a large volcanic eruption, and there's really no contest when you look at it that way. Volcanoes, much more destructive, much more damaging, much more dangerous, especially the big eruptions.
All right, great question. Mrs. Ganato's class, do you have one more?
Yeah.
Last question.
My name is Kaylin, and I'm really excited to meet you guys.
Thank you, Kaylin.
And my question is, have you ever seen anything unusual in a storm or volcano?
Yes, yes, I have. I was in Indonesia at Krakatoa volcano, and we were camped on a small island overlooking the volcano, and it would erupt every maybe 45 minutes or so. And when it would erupt, there would be these big explosions going up and a lot of volcanic ash, which is kind of like pulverized rock. And every now and then we'd get lightning bolts that would form inside that column of ash. And it's very similar to how lightning forms in a thunderstorm. You get the ash particles rubbing up against each other, just like you rubbing your feet on the carpet and zapping someone with static electricity. And I was able to capture that. I get a photo of that. Really, really amazing. And it's a very rare phenomena. Not many people get to see that. And I was trying maybe for 10 years to get to witness that, and I finally got to see that. So that's a very rare and odd thing. Volcanoes can actually create their own lightning.
Thank you for answering my question.
You're very welcome.
Oh, guys, good job. This was so.
All right. Well, George, that was phenomenal. I bet you could probably go indefinitely with questions. But we are going to sign off shortly. What I'd like to do right at the very end is I'll turn the microphones on so the classrooms can kind of wave and say goodbye and thank you. But maybe if there's just something you want to leave the classes off with, or just something you want to say. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll give them some little parting words, a couple little bit here. Absolutely. I want to thank you guys so much. It's been an absolute joy for me. I love talking to students and classes. And one thing that I really want to encourage you guys to do is to get outside, enjoy nature. Whenever you see a storm coming, safely if you can, maybe be on the porch, watch it, see what the sky is doing. There's so much that we can learn just by looking up and seeing what's happening in the atmosphere around us. And when it comes to maybe in a few years thinking about your career in terms of what you want to do, one thing that has really served me very, very well is the knowledge that if you want something that you've never had before, you must be willing to do things that you've never done before. And so I do these crazy things. I get afraid, absolutely, but fear helps me to be safe. When I'm afraid, that tells me I need to take precautions. So I try to do dangerous things in as safe a manner as possible. So just keep that in mind. If you want things you've never had, you have to be willing to do things you've never done.
All right. Awesome advice. So boys and girls from across North America, thanks so much for joining in today. Thank you to your teachers. And let's turn those microphones on so we can say goodbye. We can say thank you to George. So it's going to get loud here, but let's do it.
Bring it on.
All right, we are signing off. Thanks, George. That was phenomenal.
That was overwhelming.